everyone, and welcome. Welcome today to Celebrity Customer Experience Riffs with me, Jill Raff, episode 69, where we riff on anything and everything related to employee experience or customer experience, because I am truly obsessed with the concept that great employee experience will lead to great customer experience. I want to invite everyone today who is listening live or the replay, thank you for watching, to comment along the way, tag me, tag my guest who you'll hear about in just a minute, and enjoy and join in on the conversation. I'm really excited. Today's guest is someone who actually has some history with me and my family from the very early McDonald's days. From the early, not just from the inception of McDonald's. McDonald's started actually in 1955. So I don't want to spoil a lot of the details, but I'll just say that this gentleman has wisdom and experience that has taken him through life from working for, and more importantly, with my dad, Marshall Raff, and the very first McDonald's in Columbus, Georgia on Macon Road. The store was opened in 1962, and he worked there from 1964 to 1966, and said that he remembers details and conversations from those experiences like it was this morning. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Mr. Wayne Reynolds to the show. Welcome so much, Wayne. It's so great to have you here.
Great to see you again after a number of years. Great to see you.
Thank you. It's just been so fun. We've had a conversation or two offline, and I have to share Wayne Reynolds with you because he has truly, as I said, a lot of wisdom, so much insight, and so many interesting stories about his beginning at McDonald's and working with my father. So I wanted to give you a little background first. Mr. Wayne Reynolds serves as one of the 8 elected members of the Alabama State Board of Education. He holds a doctorate in education from Auburn University and a master's in finance from the University of Georgia. Reynolds worked 32 years in public education, including 12 years as a public school superintendent. He's been a registered nurse since 2003 and has owned and operated his own business since 1996. A 1964 graduate of Baker High in Columbus, Georgia, Wayne worked for Marshall Raff at McDonald's on Macon Road, the very first McDonald's in Columbus, Georgia, from 1964 to 66. A disabled veteran, Reynolds served in the U.S. Army from 1966 to 69 in Vietnam, and in 1968 to 69 with the 95th EVAC and 22nd Surgical Hospitals. Thank you so much. Reynolds lives now in Athens, Alabama, with his wife, Carol, and they have 2 children and 2 grandchildren. His son, Wesley, served in the Air Force and now practices medicine, and his daughter, Paige, works in weapons research. Wow. What just a wonderful family, and clearly people who care and give back so much to all of us. So thank you for everything that you have given on our behalf as the country. So, Wayne, let's start a little bit at the beginning, so people have kind of some understanding of the backstory, how we connected, and starting out with kind of with how we connected, and what is it that was that thing that you remembered so much that made you say, let's reach out and for us to connect.
Well, I saw a post on, if you're from Columbus, Georgia, about the restaurant McDonald's on Macon Road, and I commented that I worked there and worked for Mr. Marshall Raff. And then I saw you post, and we connected from that venue on Facebook. It was interesting, very interesting.
Yeah. Can you see if you can hold your phone or microphone, whatever you're talking to, a little bit closer? You're sounding a little more distant all of a sudden. Thank you.
I'll try. How's that?
So Yeah, for some reason the sound, I don't know what's going on here today. I apologize, everyone. Hopefully it's not coming through bad on your end.
I can't hear anything here.
Um, gosh, I'm not sure of a better way. I'm trying to think if it's better if we do this on the phone, although I hate to not have you on video, but I want the sound to be good.
I don't
Yeah.
understand. I'm not
There's a lot of crackling sounds. Okay, we're going to try to ignore it and try to go on. And if it's really bad, then maybe what we'll do is I'll do a recording and figure out how to just replay that recording if you don't mind being patient. Okay, great, because there's just so much gold here. I want everyone to enjoy and participate. So I gave everyone a little bit of background of your incredible, diverse, interesting ways that you developed yourself in all your careers. And I'm curious, what was it in your journey through this interesting path through finance, education, and medicine, excelling in all of these areas? What was that made you realize the importance of your early years of working at McDonald's and perhaps my dad in particular, as a teenager, that you feel impacted your life, this incredible professional life journey that you've had that you ultimately developed in so many areas?
Well, I went to work for your dad in 1964. I graduated from high school in Columbus at Baker High School. I was a national merit finalist. I did very well in school, but I came from a very poor background. I'm the oldest of 12 children. My mother had 12 children in 14 years, and my father was a fireman. So we didn't have a lot of financial advantages, but I went to work to McDonald's to make money and amazingly enough, a young 18-year-old kid, your dad hired me, and I was very fortunate. I stayed with him for 2 years while I went to Columbus State University and learned a lot of teamwork, working together. Your father, much wealthier than I and much older than I, we still had similar feelings of commitment and family and obligation to ourselves and our country and each other. And he became very much a father figure to me. And as a young guy, I observed a lot. I paid attention to a lot. I was intuitive in understanding the concept of business and its value. And Mr. Raff was certainly a great role model. He treated everyone with respect, regardless of your station or financial background. He always encouraged me to do well in school and keep going on. And there was a sense of always mutual respect. Your father had a demeanor about him that demanded respect. There was no question that you respect Mr. Raff. And he returned that respect equally. And it was Mr. Raff and Wayne, but it was still respectful. And it was obvious that he was giving a lot to the business to make McDonald's successful in a different kind of environment than it had been before, because he was bringing the corporate structure fairly new. It's not the McDonald's that we know now into the environment. And your father was very judicious in the kind of people he hired, because the kind of McDonald's we had then required a level of capability that doesn't happen now. When we actually took orders, you told the waiter, the window person, which is a term we use, the window person, what you wanted. That person interpreted that item with a price, multiplied it out, added it up, added taxes, charged you, made change. And you had to be at least intellectually capable enough to do those things, which is different than you have now. He hired almost exclusively males, much to the chagrin of women now, but that was the process of the corporate structure. we were under a corporate supervision in addition to him, and so we all maintained the values that were McDonald's and that Marshall Raff insisted on. He worked tirelessly. He was obviously a person that had the investment capability to own the store, but he never stopped working. He would work as hard as anyone else. And if we were busy, he worked alongside you. He made certain that he worked as hard as you did. There's no way that you felt he was an imperial owner and you were subordinate and subservient to him. He was your coworker.
Wow. Try to unpack some of that. That you just said so much that I think is missing in today's world, and that so many business owners are really having a problem with. Getting that respect from your people, hiring the right people. Like you said, he was very judicious about hiring who he hired and hiring those right people that would be in alignment with the values of the company, of the corporation that was just establishing in those days. And I think that's something that a lot of people today are missing. I mean, you did point out correctly that, the experience today is very different. And do you think, what would be your advice, having gone through the hiring process, the onboarding process, how you were trained, how you were educated, and how, my dad engaged with you? What would be your advice to people today who are struggling with getting staff, with retaining staff, with getting people to buy into the culture? Or what I also heard you say is that everyone worked together towards the common goal. And how was that established for you? And what would be your advice for people to take your experience and apply it today?
Well, when I worked for Marshall Raff, it was obvious that you had to have integrity. You can have intellectual capabilities, but if you didn't have integrity and a work ethic, you weren't going to survive. You had to have some basic skills to function intellectually, and you have to be willing to do a lot of different things. And under stress, when you were very busy, customers expected to be waited on in the minimal amount of time, and you were expected to do your job without exception, without deviation, without complaining. And the one thing, I was a marketing and management major while I was at McDonald's, so it was an obvious example to me, even though it wasn't what people perceived that you might do at McDonald's, but you learn to do a myriad of different things in a cooperative venture, because McDonald's was not a single function. You had to prepare the burgers, the fries, and the drinks, and all of those things. And I think the key thing that I always carry through from the supervisory position is that you respected someone else. And I have been over thousands of people. And during that time, I didn't go on a title or a position. I would feel as a school superintendent, as a leader, I could walk into school and people would say, use my title, and I could just call me Wayne. I'm comfortable with that. I'm not into being a title or an achievement. And that kind of collegialness or relationship, willingness to put yourself in another person's position, sometimes affects and always affects the employee, because if they become team members, that's effective. The most disruptive activity in an organization is a lack of continuity and unity. If you have two forces working against themselves in any organization, whether it's education or medicine or anything else, it cannot function. When I left McDonald's, I went in the United States Army and became a medic. Actually, I went to volunteer to go to Vietnam, and and saw the value of teamwork and saving people's lives and putting yourself out for people.
Mm-hmm.
And that was part of that teamwork. You never quit working with someone. You know, there's the old phrase in the Army and the military, you never leave anyone behind. You don't leave anyone behind in the corporate structure. You don't leave anyone behind in the military. And you don't leave anyone behind in education. And you never quit trying to learn something new. No matter what I did, if there was a need in Vietnam or another area, if we were in intense casualty, you work there. In education, if I went into a school and of all things, the cafeteria was having difficulty, I went into it. Or I went into that.
Wayne, I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time hearing you now.
I don't know what to do.
I know. I apologize. I just want to make sure everyone else hears too. I was grabbing what you were saying, and I'm just going to repeat it because it's brilliant. And I apologize if everyone hears this noise going on in the background. I don't know what it is. We might have to do this again, but really brilliant how he's used what he's learned from the military, from education, and from his first days at McDonald's, of the Army expression, never leaving anyone behind. And it's that all for one, one for all attitude and teamwork that's happening in businesses that he has used across all of these different work opportunities and careers that he's had. And I think that's really spot on. I don't know. I'm wondering, I don't know if it's my side, if it's the platform, or if it's your phone. Yeah, I'm just having, let's try this if you don't mind. We're going to be spontaneous. This is what happens when you're live. Things happen. Would you mind signing off and signing in again? And let's see if maybe that helps a little bit. I appreciate it. Okay. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the things that Wayne said, which is, I think, just so poignant. He mentioned respect, that my dad demanded respect in a very kind, caring way. It wasn't like speaking down at people, but he also gave back that respect. And that was so important, is that when you give and you get, right? It's give, get, and you give and you give and you give, and then you get back as well. And I think, that he talked about integrity and work ethic, and that everybody have that. So let's see, we're going to bring Wayne back on here. Okay. Yes. Hi. Thank you. I'm so glad you're back. It's got some background noise. I don't know what's going on. We're just going to deal with it as best we can. And I think what we'll do is, if we have to re-record, and I'll play it separately once you get your computer fixed or whatever it is, not a problem. We'll do that, because there's just so much gold. There's so much value here. And I want to make sure everyone hears that really super loud and clear. So one of the things you talked about was, teamwork. So you were talking about this idea of teamwork through education, through the Army, what you learned at McDonald's in the early days. As the foundation. And when we spoke before, you talked about it being a place of family and mutual respect. And, there was compassion there. You said that, my dad showed compassion. He really understood what everybody was going through, people's difficulties. And yet always being approachable and there. So can you talk a little bit about how you experienced that, what that was like for you, and what you took from that, and how you applied that later on in your other parts of your life or work?
Well, when we worked at McDonald's, we had variable schedules in order to fulfill the needs of the customer. And we had various tasks to do, and the various components in the products that we produced. Mm-hmm. And one felt that one needed to learn to do multiple facets in order to be more valuable and more useful to the corporation and to yourself, because you expanded your own abilities, which expanded your availability to work. And Mr. Raff always was willing to teach you and to accept your need to learn. And some of us learned faster than others. And some of us were more physical than others. And some of us were more intellectual than others. But Marshall Raff always seemed to have a sense of being able to pull your individual capabilities to the forefront and use those. And I see that in my working with various people, even now, as an elected member of the state school board, you have a complexity of problems. Life is not simple. It's not supposed to be simple. Life is not easy. It's not supposed to be easy. And it's not repetitive. It's not supposed to be. It changes with circumstances. And you've got to be flexible and accepting and do your best no matter what adversity you find. And that's what happened. And with Marshall Raff, I never saw an indication that he would ever quit. My children now sometimes ask me why I still am active. I just turned 3/4 of a century old on Labor Day, and I'm very active. Very active, yes. Thank you very much. I don't see an end to working. Work is, I never envisioned retiring and doing nothing. I never, Dad never could do that. Your mother, Marcia Rapp, could never do that. She maintained the life of her 3 daughters and herself and her husband, and was very vigilant about that. And there was also an ethical basis in your father's life. We were both persons of strong religious conviction. I was Christian and your father is Jewish, but we recognized the value of each other's individual commitments. We didn't expect to be alike. We had some similarities as a Judeo-Christian tradition, which helped guide us both in what we did. But recognizing that he was going to be off on Saturday for his religious experience, and he permitted me to be off on Sunday for mine, was a recognition of the significance of both our lives. Though I was just a kid, he still saw that value in an employee and recognizing the employee's other commitments other than just work. And my commitments were at school and family and work and my Christian life, which has also been a strong part of my life. Those values, you don't just think about them, you live them. And that's one thing that was evident in your father's life and helped solidify it in my life is acceptance of others, but having some core values in work, core values in life, core values in your faith.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And you said so much there. That I think that the core values starts with you, right? It starts with the owner. It starts with your employees that you hire. That's why it's so important to hire intelligently and think about not just bringing anyone on who has a pulse or warm body. But I know staffing today is very much a challenge. And I think this is going to be a challenge that we face going forward because they just need warm bodies to keep the stores open and businesses open. But at the same time, if they're not thinking strategy, if they're not thinking long term about who they have on board, and are they built in the same way in terms of, are they willing to work for the best of the company? Are they willing to work for each other, supporting each other? And I think that's what my takeaway from you is what you had, is that you felt this family environment that was created there, that we talked about, that my dad was always, the manager. You knew he was the owner. He was a step above, but you never felt like he was positioned himself above you, that he was there, you said, shoulder to shoulder. And, you mentioned, I was going to ask, what ways was this communicated to you? And like, how did this impact your work attitude? And it sounds like what you experienced as a teenager of having this brand new concept, this new store, the owner there right next to you, working whenever was needed, shoulder to shoulder. And one thing that you said earlier on too, that I love, that you said that he never asked you to do anything that he couldn't show you what to do himself. So it wasn't like he barked orders. And I think people today really need to hear that management today, executive leadership today, need not to be sitting in their offices or sitting in the background telling people what to do, but instead engaging with them, showing them directly what to do. And I'm just wondering, do you feel, I mean, obviously, as you just said, you had these values, and I think that's why there was such a great connection with my dad and with the work that you did there, because you had those core values within yourself to start with. But do you think the work that you did, and if so, like, what was it that you experienced that you feel impacted your attitude as you went on to do all these other amazing things in your life?
I think your father always had the emphasis that you represented the corporation, your personal appearance, your speech pattern, everything you did had to be professional. And that carried through my life. You did not look unprofessional at McDonald's. You wore clean, you wore those little delightfully attractive paper hats. But that was part of the image that you had. And that's what people expect to see. And to this day, I don't understand casual Fridays. I never have. And my expectations and what my employees would present to their students and the parents and the other persons had to represent them. When you show up as a business person or as a leader, there's a perception that people expect. Marshall Raff always was immaculate. He wore the little string tie, but he was immaculate. If he soiled his garment in the course of work, he changed. If I soiled my garment in the course of work, I changed. You don't say, well, I spilled this stuff on me, and that was 4 hours ago. The person that sees you one time. It's an old trite adage, you only have one chance to make a good impression. One of the things I see in people in leadership today is they perceive that they can.
I'm sorry, we lost you. You said one of the things in leadership today is, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes. Can you hear me? Yeah, I can see
Not
you.
well. You started to say that one of the things that you see is an issue in leadership today is
People, if you go in a physician's office, you expect them to wear a shirt and the traditional jacket. That's what a physician is supposed to look at. If they came in there with jeans and a sweatshirt, you wouldn't feel that you were being professionally treated, even though the confidence would still be there.
Mm-hmm.
To me, a corporate leader should look like a corporate leader. And I don't relate very well to people who don't dress and present themselves in the position that they have.
Mm-hmm.
The position is not only the title you have, it's how you personally present yourself to others. And one is not always cautious of that. We went through this whole phase of this casual life, and we don't really care, and sweatshirts and all that sort of stuff. I don't relate to that. because I don't think that it projects leadership and authority to others if you don't look like a leader or a person of authority, and you don't treat people in accordance with the way you want to be treated.
Yes, it's certainly how we present ourselves, how the words we use, how we speak, and you talked about pride, right? That you wouldn't that pride was something that was very important that you had when working there through the different concepts and values that were presented, the positions that you were asked to do, that you developed this pride. And I think in humility is kind of the other side of that, right? So that you're talking about how it was really important that no matter what position you held, whether you were the owner, that you said my dad, you had this strong humility that just he exuded, and that people felt this humility. And I think when you're a leader and you show humility, your staff around you picks up on that, and I think they're going to be much more willing to approach you and talk to you and create that information flow that's so important as a leader to understand what's going on in your people.
Absolutely correct. And you may get hired for one job, but if you diversify your skill sets, that's how you get into other jobs. And your father was pretty insistent that everybody diversify themselves so that areas, when needs of various areas changed, you had staff to accommodate those other requirements.
Right, cross training, right? So that there was never, that's not my job. Everybody could.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. In the sense of ownership, you talked about, that there was a certain expectation set of the ethos of the company, and that if you weren't aligned with that, if you didn't have that ownership of the work that you were doing, for the most part, nobody lasted very long because they just didn't feel that they were a part of it, and they weren't in alignment, and nobody would last very long unless you had that ownership.
The other reality is you realize that certain people have greater needs than others. People got sick, people had family issues. And one of the issues that often exist in public education, and that's been my lifelong life, is that sometimes parents and students feel that teachers don't really care for them, and they must. You must care for others. I've had situations where I've had to intercede to make sure children, students, and employees got what respect they deserve. And often the organizational structure can be an impediment to those people's self-actualization. And the organizational structure, though it has to be the guiding rule, has to accommodate differences among individuals and individuals in order for the structure to succeed.
Absolutely.
So, and that's what your father did in his business. If I were a happy employee, and then I performed that. If I were unhappy, it would affect the structure of the whole corporate body. And he was the same person. I know later how much stress he was under maintaining the profitability of the business and a wife and 3 children. And he never let that interfere with his performance. And yet he also acknowledged the needs of those that work.
Acknowledge the need to what? I'm sorry?
He acknowledged the needs and requirements of those that were his employees.
Yeah, acknowledge the needs of his employees. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I am definitely going to have you back I'm going to try to do a transcription of this if it's possible. I don't know what is going on today, so I apologize, everyone. I apologize, Wayne, for all the distraction. And I'd be interested to see if it captured all that on the replay because you said you're not hearing that. So I'm hoping others won't as well. But if so, I'm going to do a transcription and of what's possible, and I will have you back. Let's try to figure out what's going on. And we'll do this again because you just are, there's so many wise, just amazing gold nuggets that every owner, every business owner, every manager, every executive, every just crew person, anyone who's in business, who works, can really benefit from. And I want to make sure that all that's loud and clear. So thank you so much for your time today. And I hope that you'll come back again when we can figure out how to get this resolved because I just really cherish all of your wisdom, your memories, and appreciate you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. You have a good day.
Thank you so much. So I want to thank everyone today for joining. I'm sorry, I don't know what it's like on your end. I know what I'm hearing. So we will definitely reconvene with Wayne if that was a challenge for you. If the playback shows that it wasn't, great. He's really so fantastic and has so much value to add. So I want to just say thank you for joining today. And we will be back next week on our regular time, Thursday, 12 p.m. This week is Yom Kippur on Thursday. So that's why we had our live show today instead. But next week we'll be back to our regular time on Thursday, 12 o'clock. And thank you again for joining as well. And please feel free to comment along the way. And we look forward to creating those conversations with you. If you would like to have a conversation with me directly about your business, feel free to reach out directly, jill@jillraff.com. And I look forward to hearing about what's going on in your business and how a lot of these wonderful concepts that Wayne Reynolds shared with us today can really be highlighted and brought to the forefront of your business. So once again, thanks for joining.